My name is Scotty Dunlap, and I'm the instructor of SSE 865. Throughout this course, one of the projects that you'll be working on is the completion of a written audit program and an audit document. The audit document is designed to be a measurement of how well a facility is performing in relation to health and safety. The environment that I'm getting ready to present will be able to be used for you to couch your project in so that you can attach each of the programs, each of the topics that you'll need to create written material for into this environment. The environment that we're going to be looking at is a warehouse. The distribution center here is a basic facility that you can use to attach each of the topics to that we'll be discussing. Some of the topics are regulated and some are non-regulated. The first regulated topic is machine guarding. So as you look throughout the facility, you'll have to identify where machines exist and where things are that have moving parts that could cause injury to an employee. In a warehouse, this might be in the primary distribution area where product is moved. In the back right corner is a machine shop, so there could be machines in there that would require guarding. Lockout tagout is another topic that's regulated. Similar to machine guarding, anywhere throughout the facility where maintenance employees may be working on equipment that they may need to turn off and control the energy, those things need to actually be locked out. So being able to identify those in the facility would be one of the key aspects of writing an audit program. A third topic is hazard communication. Looking again in the lower corner where a maintenance shop may exist, hazardous chemicals could be used there to do things such as even cleaning. Using different materials for processes throughout the facility could cause employees harm. So hazard communication would be a topic. Personal protective equipment is another topic. Whether you're looking at work in the maintenance shop or even out on the grounds with maintenance staff who may be involved in tasks such as mowing the lawn, removing snow during the winter time, there are going to be personal protective equipment issues that need to be considered. In the warehouse, if employees are involved in manual material lifting, there could be issues of personal protective equipment where they may need to use gloves, or they may be working in an area where material could become airborne, so they may need to wear safety glasses or goggles. Powered motor vehicles is a regulated issue that is significant in warehousing and distribution. As you can see in the main part of the warehouse, there's a forklift. And in a warehousing environment, you're obviously going to have more than just the one typically. In many warehouses, they may have as many as 40 or 50 pieces of powered industrial equipment moving at a given time. So understanding the PMV regulation, as it's typically called, is necessary in building an audit program. Another regulated issue is emergency response. OSHA has an emergency response plan regulation that will have limited legal application to a warehouse. Depending on what things are involved may require or not require a warehouse to have an emergency response plan. But we know that having an emergency response plan is a best business practice. So when you look at the facility from a warehousing perspective, if you look at the tractors and trailers that are parked, the entrance to the facility, in the front of the facility you have office space. So there are going to be a lot of issues that you'll need to consider when looking at an emergency response plan. Risks that are inherent to the facility that may impact the organization. Fire safety is something that's tightly intertwined with emergency response. A fire safety plan will typically involve both the front office areas because simple policies such as no smoking, and then as you look on around the facility to the fire suppression system that might be in place, risers that could be in the facility that feed the sprinkler system itself throughout the warehouse and office space. All of those would need to be considered when building a fire safety program and evaluating it in an audit. Housekeeping is another regulated area. A key aspect of safety is simply having a clean work environment. Whether you're looking at the warehouse, the office space, out in the dock area, employee parking, housekeeping needs to be a component of a well-rounded health and safety management system. OSHA record keeping is a regulated area because whether an injury occurs in the warehouse area, back in the maintenance shop, or if you were to look up in the front office, ergonomics, some of those issues are injury-related issues. So having an OSHA record-keeping program that accurately tracks injury and illnesses that occur in the workplace is critical. So the audit has to measure the implementation of those. Welding is another issue, and that predominantly is going to be focused back in the maintenance shop. When you look at the maintenance shop in the lower corner, you need to determine where hot work is occurring and what type of activities are happening. Hot work may actually also occur out in the main part of the warehouse. Racking may become damaged, metal components of the structure may become damaged, so cutting and welding may be needed to repair certain items. Confined space is an issue that must be evaluated to determine if such environments exist. Within the warehouse, some of these areas might be manhole covers that may be required to access pits that are existent in the structure. As you look at the outside of the facility, there may be manhole covers or certain areas that meet the definition of a confined space. So an evaluation has to be done to determine if confined spaces are there, and if so, what safety regulations need to be complied with. Safe electrical work practices are another issue. When you look again at the maintenance shop, though that's where a lot of the activity may occur where electrical work is involved, maintenance employees may be involved in activities throughout the facility. Repairing lighting that has gone bad. They may do something as simple as replacing a light fixture, to doing something as complex as replacing or adding on to the electrical system itself. So safe electrical work practices have to be measured. Cranes could be an issue, even in warehousing and distribution. When you look at the main part of the work environment out in the warehouse, cranes and hoists may exist that are required to lift significant amounts of material or weight. These may even exist in a small fashion back in the maintenance shop. In the maintenance shop, you may have cranes and hoists that are used to pick up motors or powered industrial trucks to do repair and maintenance. Hearing conservation is an issue that should also be considered. Even though this is a warehousing environment, when you look at the main part of the facility, there could be something as simple as conveyor belts that run that are too loud. If there's a second floor to a product pick module that places employees up near a roof, noise could reverberate from the ceiling or nearby walls that could increase the sound level in the facility. So including hearing protection, it might be a strong component of the safety program. Safety signs and tags need to be evaluated, because whether you're looking at the exterior of the facility where the trucks are going to back up, there need to be signs that indicate where traffic needs to flow, warning signs against the dock area for employees who may work in that area. As you move around the front of the building, common safety signs and tags would include exit signs that direct employees where to go in the event of an emergency. As you get on into the facility and even back again to the maintenance department, safety signs and tags could include alerting employees to the presence of flammable materials. So anything that indicates a safety hazard would need to be indicated by a safety sign or tag to communicate information to employees. In a warehousing environment, product storage is a large issue, because as you look at the product that's being brought into the facility and stored in different places, it has to be stored in a way that's safe for employees to work around it. It has to be stacked properly. If racking is used, material has to be placed in racking that is adequate for the weight of the product that's being placed in the rack. So all of that has to be evaluated. Chemical storage, similar to product storage, is mainly going to be involved in the maintenance area, or possibly even as you go back up to the front of the building, looking in housekeeping closets that may be present. So chemical storage needs to be done in a way that it's properly covered by sprinkler systems if it's flammable material. If it needs to be used by employees who are properly trained, it needs to be secured. Fall protection is another regulated area. As we get out into the warehouse environment, fall protection will be involved mainly in two areas. One will be in the product movement itself. Some powered industrial equipment causes employees to actually be lifted off of the ground to place items at a certain level. So fall protection would be required there. Maintenance who engage in activities throughout the warehouse to do repair work may need to work from a height that would require them to wear fall protection. Fall protection also is involved even outside the facility, because if repair and maintenance needs to be done on the roof of the facility, on a structure apart from the main facility, fall protection may need to be used. Hand tools is a final regulated area that we'll look at for the audit document. Throughout the facility, whether it's repair and maintenance on a truck that may be parked out in the lot, we're looking at repair and maintenance work that may be going on in the front office area, work that occurs out in the warehouse area, back in the maintenance shop. Throughout the facility, hand tools are going to be used somewhere, whether it's hammers, wrenches, powered tools. Each of these items need to be measured against regulatory requirements to ensure that they're safe to operate and employees have been trained to use them properly. Now, in addition to these regulated areas, a second category are non-regulated topics. When we look at an effective health and safety management system, we know that regulations are only part of it. They're an additional component of non-regulated items that need to be considered as well. One is dock safety. In a warehouse, tractors and trailers are going to be a large part of the operation. So as these tractors and trailers are brought onto the property, backed up against the dock doors, product is loaded and unloaded, there need to be specific safety procedures that indicate how things are to be done. Research will have to be done on dock safety because there is no certain regulation. So you'll have to look outside to identify what best practices exist in the realm of dock safety. Injuries and even fatalities occur on docks. Even as of late, employees have died by being crushed against a trailer backing into a dock. Ergonomics is an unregulated area. Though OSHA talks a great deal about ergonomics, they've been unsuccessful at this point of coming up with an exact standard. So whether you're looking at the front office environment or looking at the warehouse, employee interaction with their work environment is a critical issue. So an ergonomics program needs to be in place to measure the interface of the employee with their work environment to ensure that issues like repetitive motion, proper lifting, all of those things are being managed and evaluated. Workplace violence is an issue. Looking at the front of the facility, we see where there's a front entrance. Employees need to have access to the facility, whereas guests and visitors need to be closely watched to determine who should be on the property and who should not. So looking at it from even somewhat of a security perspective is a component of safety auditing, because workplace violence can occur easily when a disgruntled spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend or family member comes to the workplace due to an outside of work issue. Leadership is another issue. Even though leadership cannot be physically observed during an audit, You can audit manifestations of leadership. You can evaluate meeting documents where safety was used by the plant manager as an agenda topic. You can evaluate how department supervisors are using safety as a component of pre-shift meetings. Each of these things are behaviors that can occur that you can audit through documentation that the facility maintains. Safety committee activity is another unregulated issue. And again, similar to leadership, it may not be able to be effectively looked at during the time of an audit, but you can evaluate the effectiveness of a safety committee and activity that they've been engaged in. You can review safety committee meeting minutes. You can talk to safety committee members. You can evaluate implementations of ideas that safety committee members have come up with that have impacted safety. First responders are another area that's unregulated. Though bloodborne pathogens is regulated, first responders are going to be needed to potentially respond to minor injuries as well as major injuries throughout the facility. Whether employees are injured out in the main part of the warehouse, outside in the dock area or in the back part of the property, or even in the front of the facility in the office, first responders may be needed to address basic first aid. So evaluating their team, how they've trained individuals, and their activity is a must. Incident investigation is also an issue that must be evaluated. Though it is a component of the required OSHA record keeping, injury investigations must also be looked at from the prospect of what positive changes have been made from the investigation. Have multiple people been included in the process? So these type of things can be looked at as to how well the facility is implementing the investigation process and how well they're taking corrective action on issues that have been identified. And speaking of corrective action, those are the two next things. Corrective action needs to be looked at from a discipline perspective. Once an employee has been maybe found to be in violation of a safety program or policy, the facility needs to take corrective action on the employee, and this typically is seen from a discipline perspective. Written warnings, records of coaching, all of these things should be able to be presented by the facility as evidence that they have been taking corrective action on employees that have been in violation of safety programs and procedures. The other aspect of corrective action is more of a reaction to issues that have been identified from an investigation. Does the facility have a documented track record of making corrective actions to the facilities from things that have been identified either through an actual accident that has occurred, or maybe even a near miss that's been reported? Preventive maintenance is another safety-related topic. Even though by its very nature and the title of it, preventive maintenance, it is something that's used in that lower corner of the facility, which is the maintenance shop. The facility should have a preventive maintenance program that addresses maintenance on equipment, powered motor vehicles, any systems in the facility that cause mechanical movement that could possibly cause injury if failure occurred. For example, if a forklift were being operated and all of a sudden the brakes went out, that's an area where preventive maintenance can be an ongoing tool to evaluate equipment to ensure that the brakes are in good shape and that they're properly functioning. The final aspect of the audit program and audit document that you'll be addressing will be fleet safety. DOT manages items when it comes to tractors and trailers that will be pulled up to the dock. However, fleet safety can also address smaller vehicles that are at the front of the facility that may be owned and operated by the organization but are not technically commercial motor vehicles. Commercial motor vehicles are the tractors and trailers on the side of the facility. Those are managed by DOT, the Department of Transportation. Fleet safety addresses smaller vehicles that do not fall under the Department of Transportation. These may be pickups that maintenance has to go get parts and equipment throughout the work week. It might be a sedan that the sales department uses to go out and make calls on customers. Or it could be a vehicle that's just simply used by the facility to make mail runs. Anything that's used locally on public roads. So fleet safety is a critical issue as far as the vehicle itself and training that's provided to those who operate it. So that brings us to a close of all the topics that you'll need to address in your audit document. Each of these categories, regulated and unregulated topics, will need to be addressed.